Hello students, I hope you all are doing good. Welcome to the daily news analysis. I am your educator Prithviraj Singh. Let us discuss the important news articles of 3rd of March 2022. Guys, Russia after its invasion in Ukraine has bombing the city of Kharkiv in Ukraine, which is the second largest city in Ukraine. And mind you, many Indian students are stranded in the city of Kharkiv, and as you would be knowing that even one Indian student, a medical student, was died in the airstrikes at Kharkiv. Correct. Now Kharkiv, as I said, is the largest city in Ukraine, and it is seeing the attacks by airstrikes and the bombings by Russian forces. Guys, today it is the 8th day of Russian invasion of Ukraine, or the war in Ukraine, and Russian forces has clearly said Indian government that you evacuate all your Indian students by 9:30 Indian Standard Time, right? That is today. It was a news that by 9:30 in the evening, right? 9:30 Indian Standard Time, or 21:30 in the evening, in the night. So they have set a deadline that by 9:30, till 9:30 you evacuate all your Indian students, and post that it is being apparently seen that Russia would start its operations in Kharkiv, which they claim that they have already occupied, right? So Kharkiv may see many more bombings, many more airstrikes post 9:30 today, right? So for the evacuation of the students, the Indian government started an operation called as Operation Ganga, a very important operation, guys, and I expect a question on this. So they may ask you, which among the following operations or was started by the Indian government to evacuate the Indian nationals stuck in Ukraine? So the answer is Operation Ganga, right? Now guys, there are two important cities where Indian students go to study medical sciences, right? They are MBBS. They are the city of Kharkiv and Sumy. I repeat, the city of Kharkiv and Sumy, where a large number of Indians are stranded, and the student who was being killed by the airstrikes was from Kharkiv, correct? So Operation Ganga is the code name for the operation to evacuate Indian nationals stuck in Ukraine. I hope it is clear. So guys, Russia, as I said, that has given a humanitarian corridor, where Indian students and the Indian nationals can be evacuated, and would be a safe passage or a safe corridor for Indians, to go to the safe haven where they can be evacuated by the Indian airlines. You can see, guys, as we've discussed, that Russia is invading Ukraine from three sides. From the south, it is invading from Crimea. From east, it is invading from Donetsk and Luhansk. This is the Donbas region, which has the pro-Russian people, and Russia has recently, the Russian Federation has recently declared independence for Luhansk and Donetsk, right? So guys, you all would be remembering that on 22nd Feb, the Winter Olympics, which were being held in China, Beijing, right? They culminated on 22nd February, right? And you know that the president of Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, went to China, for the Winter Olympics, and on 22nd Feb, the Winter Olympics ended, right? And the very next day, that is 23rd Feb, Russia declared the independence of the Donbas region of Luhansk and the Donetsk cities, correct? And once it declared the independence of the Donbas region, they invoked Article 7 of United Nations Charter, which says that any country can start its special military operations to save the country, right? So the very next day it declared independence to the Donbas region, and it invoked Schedule 7 of UN Charter, and then it conducted special military operations, right? So special military operations were started on the very next day, 24th of Feb, right? 24th of Feb, Russia declared war on Ukraine, and as they say, it is a special military operations, right? So this is how they are, taking the side of Schedule 7 of UN Charter for their military invasion, correct? So we know that Russia is invading from Crimea, from the south side. From east it is invading from this side, and from north it is invading from Belarus, right? Because Belarus is an ally of Russia, guys. So Sumy and Kharkiv are the two very important cities in Ukraine, and as I said that Kharkiv is the second largest city of Ukraine after Kyiv, right? Kyiv is the capital of Ukraine, correct? And there are many thousands, more than 30,000 students studying MBBS in Kharkiv and Sumy, right? So Russia has said that by 21:30 hours, that is tonight, Indian Standard Time, 9:30 p.m., they would be starting military operations at Kharkiv, right? So the deadline they have given is 21:30. Till that, the Indian government have to evacuate, its students from Kharkiv and Sumy, correct? So I hope we are clear. So guys, moving to the next news article. European Union has cut Russian banks from SWIFT. It has banned the RT and the Sputnik. Guys, European Union, which is a trade bloc, has cut the Russian banks from SWIFT, right? And SWIFT, as you know, is a society for worldwide interbank financial telecommunication, right? So that means, let's say, consider an example. A person sitting in USA want to do a financial transaction in UK, right? So let's say there is a person in United States, and he want to do the financial transaction from, let's say, Citibank to United Kingdom's HSBC Bank, right? Now, because it is a I would say country financial transaction, he can transfer the amount in a bank located in UK only with SWIFT code. So SWIFT code actually ensures the speedy transaction, speedy, safe and secure transaction, right? So the moment Citibank, a person of having his account in Citibank would be transacting the amount into HSBC, in UK, the bank would ask for the SWIFT code, right? SWIFT code is normally 8 or 11 digit code, right? And the moment you will enter the SWIFT code, you can transfer the amount to the bank in another country, right? So European Union has cut the Russian bank from SWIFT, right? SWIFT is, again, I repeat, it is the Society for Worldwide Interbank, right, financial telecommunication, correct? And it is a global messaging system connecting thousands of financial institutions around the world, correct? So it allows for quick and secure transactions, right? So the European Union has cut 7 Russian banks from SWIFT payment system, right? So 7 Russian banks have been cut from the SWIFT payment system. So the objective of European Union, right, is to impose economic sanctions on Russia, and that is the reason why it has cut the 7 Russian banks from the SWIFT payment system and has banned the Kremlin-controlled media outlets RT and Sputnik, right? So it has also banned, the operations of some media groups like RT and Sputnik, from broadcasting in European Union, right? So in this sense, it has imposed the financial or economic sanctions over Russia, correct? So this is all about SWIFT. which is the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. I hope it is clear. As you can see, guys, although after the annexation of Crimea in the year 2014, Russia developed its own SWIFT system by the name of SPFS. SPFS is an alternate to SWIFT system, right, developed by Russia post the Crimean annexation of 2014, right, when America imposed economic sanctions on Russia. Right? So SPFS stands for System for Transfer of Financial Messages, right, and it is a Russian equivalent of the SWIFT financial transfer system. So they may ask you in the examination that which among the following is an alternate or is an equivalent of the SWIFT financial transfer. So it is SPFS, correct, a System for Transfer of Financial Messages. It is developed by the Central Bank of Russia post the Crimean annexation in the year 2014, right, as you can see here, right. Russia has set up its own SWIFT counterpart called SPFS, and it has, guys, plans to integrate it with China's counterpart CIPS, right. So as you have SWIFT, correct, similarly Russia has developed its own SWIFT called as SPFS, and China also has its own interbank financial telecommunication system called as CIPS, correct, and this would allow the trade between the two nations, right. We know, guys, that today China and Russia are are together, and they support each other, right, and therefore and definitely China is the most powerful economy in the world, right, most prosperous economy in the world today, especially post pandemic. So therefore Russia is seeking trade relations with China, right, and there are plans to integrate SPFS with CIPS, correct. So in this sense, Russia is also working on launching a digital version of its ruble, right. So guys, ruble is a currency of Russia, and it is working to launch a digital version of ruble, right, as India is also in the process of launching a digital currency, right. India, Russia and China were using the BRICS grouping to create an alternative to SWIFT, right. This could get a boost now, right. So even the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, right, they were also creating an alternative to SWIFT, right, and definitely it could get a boost now, right. So therefore the world, which was before heavily dependent on the West, post the Russian invasion of Ukraine, it would may shift the balance of power to China and Russia, and there are studies which says that Russia and China would emerge as the strongest countries in the world post the invasion of Ukraine. And as I said, that there are also imminent fear that China may also do the same for Hong Kong as Russia did for Ukraine. I hope it is clear. So guys, this is how the SWIFT code looks. It is as I said, that it is a 8 or 11 character code. It is made up of right, so you can see that the first 4 letters are the bank code, and then the next 2 letters are the country code, right, and then the next 2 letters are the location code, and then the last 3 letters are the branch code, right. So the bank code, right, for example HSBC may have the code HSBC, correct. Then you have the country code, for example if it is India, then IND, let's say, and then you have location code, for example Jaipur, JP, and then the branch code, let's say in Jaipur there is a branch called as Mansarovar, right. So in this sense it would look as if HSBC, IND, JP, MSR. So this is how your SWIFT code would look like, correct. So this is how the SWIFT is being used for the the international financial telecommunications, correct. So it is 8 or 11 character code, correct? So I hope it is clear. So moving to the next news article, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Guys, we have learned earlier that money laundering is the process where the profits or the proceeds which a person generates through illegal transaction, for example drug trafficking or drug rackets, human trafficking, right, corruption. So all this illegitimate money is being legitimized through various means, and this is called as money laundering, right? So guys, you can see money laundering is the legalizing the income or the profits from the illegal source. So that is very important. The person would legalize the income or the profits from illegal source, right? So the government in the year 2002 has come up with the act. The parliament came up with the act called as Prevention of Money Laundering Act, PMLA 2002, right? So it's being alleged that, and it's being said that the PMLA had evolved as the government's hatchet law in recent years. Hatchet means X, right? It is like an X which the government uses to actually to catch the money launderers, right? Now the government has argued in the Supreme Court that alerting an accused by sharing with him information about arrest, FIR and allegations in a money laundering case would defeat the very purpose of the law, right? That means in the money laundering acts, the government normally under this act the government alerts the accused, right, and gives the information about the arrest, FIR, arrest and allegations, right? And this actually defeats the very objective of the law, right? Because if you are alerting the accused, then he has many channels to evade, right, to run away, right? Because it has been seen that the people who are accused in money laundering, they run to some foreign nations, to some small foreign nations with which India do not have any extradition treaty, and where they can buy citizenships, right? So normally it has been seen that those people who are being charged of money laundering or who are being accused of money laundering, they leave our country and they go to some safe havens, where with which India do not have any extradition treaty, and where they generally buy the citizenships, right? So in this sense they evade the prosecution under PMLA. I hope you are getting my point. The petitioners have highlighted the unease caused by the almost blanket powers given to the enforcement directorate, right? So ED, which is the investigation agency, right? PMLA has, the act has given the blanket powers, right? Immense powers to the enforcement directorate for seizure, search, investigation and attachment of assets considered to be the proceeds of crimes listed under PMLA, right? So in this sense the government is arguing the fact that it has to be reformed. The act must be reformed because it has its inbuilt feature that it alerts the accused person of by giving the information about arrest or the FIR and the allegations, right? And in this actually helps the people to leave the country, to run from the country and to go to some safe havens where they can buy some citizenships, right? Although it also gives the blanket powers to the enforcement directorate, correct? So in this sense the purpose of the money laundering act actually dies. So money laundering as an act was passed by the parliament in the year 2002. However, it came into force from 1st July 2005. So this is how they may ask you, although it was passed in the year 2002, but it came into effect or with effect from the year 2005, right? I hope it is clear. So they may ask you the question of the the question may be in two forms. One, on in which year it was passed, 2002, correct? Second, when it came into force, 2005. I hope it is clear. So the PMLA rules impose obligation on banking companies, financial institutions and intermediaries to verify identity of clients, maintain records and furnish information to FIUIND, right? Financial Intelligence Unit India, right? Now Financial Intelligence Unit India is a organization working under Department of Revenue under Ministry of Finance, and it collects the information of those who are being accused or who are being charged under PMLA, right? Now PMLA defines money laundering offense and provides for the freezing, seizure and confiscation of the proceeds of the crime, right? So all the properties which are being purchased by the proceeds of the crime are being frozen and seized and confiscated by the government under the PMLA Act, right? So it enables the government or the public authority to confiscate the property earned from the illegally gained proceeds, right? So any person who directly or indirectly attempts to indulge or assist the person who is actually involved in any process or is a party to the activity connected with the proceeds of the crime would be charged under Prevention of Money Laundering Act, right? I hope it is clear. So as I was discussing about the Financial Intelligence Unit, I said that it is under the Department of Revenue, and we know that the Department of Revenue works under the Finance Ministry, right? Very important, guys. All the information related to the offenses under the PMLA is being collected by FIUIND or FIUIND, also abbreviated as Financial Intelligence Unit India, right? And it collects information, financial intelligence about the offenses under the PMLA 2002. It was set up in the year 2004, right? As you all know that PMLA, we have discussed, it came into being, it was passed in the year 2002 and it came into being from 2005, right? So in 2004, the Financial Intelligence Unit India was formed, right? And reports directly to the Economic Intelligence Council headed by the Finance Minister. Guys, Economic Intelligence Council is responsible for coordination, strategy and information sharing amongst the government agencies responsible for intelligence and control of economic offenses such as smuggling, money laundering, tax evasion and fraud, right? So Economic Intelligence Council is being headed by the Finance Minister and is responsible for the coordination, strategy and the information sharing, right, among the government agencies, right? So I hope it is clear. So we are clear that any financial information with regard to PMLA is being collected by FIUIND or Financial Intelligence Unit India, which works under Department of Revenue. So they may ask you the question, correct? And it was set up in the year 2004 and reports directly to the Economic Intelligence Council, which is headed by Finance Ministry. Guys, the Russian invasion of Ukraine has seen the prices of the crude oil, crossing $96 per barrel, right? We know that Russia is the contributes around 8% of the global oil supplies, and and they have this island called as Sakhalin Island in the eastern part of Russia, towards the north to Japan. There is an island called as Sakhalin Island in Russia's far east, right? And Russia accounts for 8% of global oil supply, right? And post the sanctions being applied over Russia after its invasion in Ukraine, the oil prices may increase in the coming future, and post its invasion the crude oil prices has touched a 7-year high of more than $99 per barrel, and it is predicted that it would cross $100 per barrel, right? Although the US has called for a global oil reserve release from various countries, but the oil prices are likely to remain above $100 per barrel, right? So guys, Sakhalin is the largest island of Russia, and this part, guys, you can see this part, this is your Sakhalin Island, right? As you can see, this is your Japan. So towards the north of Japan and east of Russia, you have this island called as Sakhalin Island, and this is known for all the oil and natural gas reserves, right? So it has oil and natural gas resources, and it is the largest island. As you can see, it is the largest island of Russia, and it is situated in the Pacific Ocean, sandwiched between Sea of Okhotsk. So this is your Sea of Okhotsk, right, and the Sea of Japan, right? So Sea of Okhotsk and the Sea of Japan to the west, right? So this is the geographical location of Sakhalin. So please be very alert and careful. Sakhalin is the largest island of Russia, and it is known for its oil and gas reserves. It is sandwiched between Sea of Okhotsk to the west and Sea of Japan to the east, right? And it is very close to Japan, north to Japan, right? I hope it is clear. And many international oil companies like ExxonMobil and Shell, they are conducting their operations in the Sakhalin Island, which is the largest island of Russia, right? I hope we are clear. So coming to the editorials from the Hindu, guys, there was an article on the editorial page which is talking about the role of the governor, right? Now before I discuss about this article, let me clarify you about some basic details about governor. Now we all know that governor is what president is to the center, right? So governor is the head of the respective state government, right? And he's being appointed by the center. That means he's being appointed by the president, right? And he do not sit in the office during the discretion of the president, right? In this way, he wears two hats. He wears two hats. One, that of the head of state, the respective state, or the chief executive of the state, although he is the nominal head. And second, the agent of the center. Why? Because he is being appointed by the center, right? And this way he acts as a bridge. He acts as a bridge or link between the center and the state, right? Now the article which talks about governor is article 153, right? So article 153 talks about the governor. Now when I talk about the state executive, that means the executive in the state, or those who implement the laws, are governor, article 153. Then you have the chief minister, article 163. And the state council of ministers, article 163 and article 164, right? Similarly, you also have the article which talks about the advocate general of state, which is article 165, right? So this is your state executive, right? Governor, Chief Minister and the State Council of Ministers, Advocate General of State, Article 165, right? Now the problem is your Article 163. Now in the Constitution, guys, when you look at the Bare Act, the Constitution of India, and when you'll see Article 163, I'll read it for you, guys. When I compare Article 74 with Article 163, there is starking difference. Article 74 on one hand says that the President is bound by the advice of the Prime Minister, who is the head of the Council of Ministers, right? So President cannot reject the advice of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. Definitely he can return the advice to the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers once, but the reconsidered advice is binding on the President. In this sense, the President is bound by the advice of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, right? But the same is not mentioned for Article 163. Article 163 says that there shall be a Council of Ministers with Chief Minister as the head, right? And they would aid and advise the Governor in exercise of his functions, except in so far he is by or under the Constitution required to exercise his functions or any of them in his discretion, right? That means I would mention here Article 163 says that there shall be Chief Minister who is the head of the Council of Ministers, right? And they would aid and advise the Governor in the advice. They would aid and advise the Governor in exercise of his functions, except, now they have mentioned a condition, except in so far where the Governor is to act on his own discretion, right? Now the word discretion means on his own whims and fancies, on his own interest, on his own decision, right? So there shall be the Council of Ministers headed by Chief Minister to aid and advise Governor, except in those matters in which the Governor has to act on his own discretion, right? But when you compare it with Article 74, you will find that there shall be the Council or Union Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister to aid and advise President in the exercise of his functions, who is bound by such an advice, right? That means President is bound by the advice of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. President cannot reject the advice of the Prime Minister, right? Whereas Governor can reject the advice of the Council of Ministers and the Chief Minister, right? As mentioned in Article 163, there shall be the State Council of Ministers headed by Chief Minister to aid and advise the Governor in exercise of his function, except in those matters where he has to act in his own discretion, right? Now in this sense, the whole logic of posting the person as a governor in the state actually dies, because if he is acting on his own discretion, and we know that the governor is being appointed by the center, and he's the agent of the center, right? So central government may always ask the governor to act on his own discretion, and that would kill the very purpose of this office, right? So therefore the case went into Supreme Court in the year 1974, called as Shamsher Singh versus State of Punjab. Now in this case, Shamsher Singh versus State of Punjab, the court clearly said that in the, I'm mentioning here, the court in 1974 in Shamsher Singh versus State of Punjab said that in the normal matters, normal or routine matters, the advice tendered by the Council of Ministers headed by Chief Minister is binding on the governor. That means in the normal matters or in the routine matters, whatever advice is that is being tendered by the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers is binding on the governor, right? Except in the extraordinary or rare circumstances. That means except in the extraordinary circumstances, the advice is not binding, right? So guys, in Shamsher Singh versus State of Punjab in the year 1974, Supreme Court said that for the normal or the routine matters, the advice of the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers is binding on the governor, whereas for an extraordinary situations or circumstances, the advice of the Chief Minister is not binding on the governor. Now today, although the issue was settled after 1974, at least for the normal matters, but what are these extraordinary matters? You know, although it was being decided by the Supreme Court in the year 1974, and they have given a list of the extraordinary matters. For example, you know, let's say the Chief Minister is acting blatantly or acting, is performing in a biased manner, you know, in a partisan manner, right? Or when its decision is blatantly biased, malefied or irrational, right? I repeat, when the Chief Minister is acting blatantly, when his decision is malefied, is irrational and blatantly biased, in those circumstances, the governor, whatever advice the Chief Minister would tender to the governor would not be binding on the governor, right? Correct. So, but now this is actually has become the bone of contention, right? And there are many things which are still not clear, and the governor is actually rejecting the advice of the Chief Minister and not accepting the advice of the Chief Minister, claiming the extraordinary circumstances, right? Now, as I said that it was being made clear in Shamsher Singh versus the State of Punjab. At the same time, Shamsher Singh versus State of Punjab, Supreme Court also said that has also limited the scope of extraordinary circumstances, right? The court said that the scope of extraordinary circumstances limits to the rare exceptional circumstances only, right? And they've given a list of those circumstances where the advice of the Chief Minister is not binding on the governor. For example, the Chief Minister acting blatantly, right, or in a malefied manner or in an irrational manner, right? So in those circumstances, the advice of the Chief Minister is not binding on the governor. And today, guys, this has become a bone of contention. Many governors today are rejecting the advice of the state government or a democratically elected state government, right? And instead of becoming a bridge between the center and the state, the governor today has become a tool in the hands of the center, right? And the central government is actually, forcing or using coercion to make their own will imposed on the state governments. I hope we are clear, right? So, moving to our article, the lines and roles on governors' powers, right? So, as I've seen that we've discussed that the politically active in the recent past, governors and the partisan role they play as agent of the center, right? And the 1974, this judgment is nothing but Shamsher Singh versus State of Punjab, 1974, that the governors shall exercise their formal constitutional powers only upon and in accordance with the advice of their ministers, save in a well-known exceptional situations. And the list of the exceptional situations was being given by the code, right? Now, there have been many cases where some governors are not acting upon the request of the of the democratically elected government. They are not granting clemency, or they are not assenting the bill. And in one instance in Tamil Nadu, the governor is also reluctating to reserve for the president's consideration a bill, right? You all know that under article 200 talks about the veto powers of governor, right? So there is one veto of the governor also called as referential veto, where the governor can reserve the bill for the assent of the president, right? Under article 200, right? So this is how the governor is misusing these exception situations, and therefore reform is being required. There have been many commissions, guys, being set up for center-state relations, like Sarkaria Commission, which was set up in the year 1983, and it gave its recommendation in the year 1987, right? Although it recommended no change in this scheme, right? But now it is time that it should be revisited. Although Sarkaria Commission gave a very important recommendation that the 5-year tenure of governor be fixed. That means, why not fix the tenure of the governor? Once elected, once appointed, he should be there in the office for 5 years, and this would ensure security of tenure. And when there is security of tenure, it would result into independence of the office. Today, the governor, occupy the office during the discretion of the president, right? That means they are appointed by the president, and the president on his own discretion can remove the governor. So the governor do not have any fixed tenure, right? They can be removed on the whims and fancies of the president, correct? And the discretion of the president is the discretion of the prime minister, right? So the Sarkaria Commission on the center-state relations recommended that no change in the scheme, but it also said that the burnt out politicians must not be appointed as governors. Burnt out politicians means those person who have the political background. Must not be appointed as governors, because they would be acting in a biased manner or in a partisan manner, right? So what needs to be done? We must identify the areas of discretion where the government is actually today using his discretionary powers. We must also fix a time frame for them to act, right? Today there is no time frame. When the bill comes from the state assembly and it goes to the governor, there is no time frame being given under which in which he has to give his assent or reject the bill, or send the bill for the consideration of the president, or return the bill to the assembly, right? So there is no time frame mentioned. So they are asking about the reforms with regard to the time frame of the time frame be decided for the governor, and making it explicit that they are obliged to go by cabinet advice on dealing with bills can be considered, right? So the advice of the cabinet must be made binding on the governor. So these are the recommendations being given. I hope it is clear. At the same time, guys, there was also a commission for center-state relation, Panchi Commission, and it talked about the ending the practice of burdening the governor with the office of chancellor. We all know, guys, that the governor is also the chancellor of all the state universities, right? So therefore, the Panchi Commission said that it is a power which is outside constitution. That means it is not mentioned in the constitution, right? And why you are burdening the governor with the post of chancellor of the universities, right? So it would lessen the burden and the intervention of the governor in the administration of the universities, right? So this is about the powers of the governor, and the thing that we have discussed is very important when I mentioned in the writing. So guys, very important article. That's all for today. I hope it was an interesting session. Do like, share and comment. Your feedbacks are very, very important. Press the bell icon for the regular updates. That's all for today. Wish you all the best. God bless you. Bye.